let's talk about Donald Trump. Now, for this conversation and topic, I will be covering and doing my best to be objective and see this issue through many perspectives and scopes. But you, as an audience, need to understand a few things for this to make sense and for us to understand. These things are, you have to be a little and have a little knowledge in politics, the Constitution, sociology, how the media works, economics, and basically how people work, right? You have to understand capitalism, plutocracy, and meritocracy, and the idea of pulling oneself from the bootstraps and finding ways to prosper, right? But most importantly, this will illustrate how we don't live in a free society, right? How you're not allowed to have different views from people, right? You don't have the right to be a racist. You don't have the right to speak about what the government is doing and revealing what behind the curtain, so to speak. That's how you know we don't live in a free society, because whether good or wrong, you should be able to have your views as long as you're not detrimental to somebody else or gonna do harm, right? Then you should be able to speak your mind. If you're a racist, hey, you're a racist. Nothing that I will say will be able to change you, but you should have, hopefully you be respectful in your views. But if not, now the issue here is illegal immigration, not legal immigration. The United States has a process that allows immigrants to come over and live the American dream. Let me ask you this: if conditions are so bad here in the states, why are people down south coming over here, right? They probably have more freedom down south, but they understand where there is no work, there is no food to eat. And here in America, there's a lot of work to in the fields, right? Specifically in the fields and just work in general. There's a lot of money. It just depends where that money is being allocated from, right? And who's getting their hands on it. Now that being said, Donald Trump may sound like a dumbass and he may sound and say some stupid shit, but he's a celebrity, right? He's got terrible television shows on primetime channels, local channels that many people, the apprentice of celebrities. I don't really know what he's got, but I just know the dude's a billionaire, right? And the shows is just basically like a megalomaniac, basically his ego on these shows, from my understanding. Now, why do people even celebrate and cheer for this guy? Well, because he's a celebrity, and people here in America, we love our celebrities. We feel like we can relate to them, and since you think you know them because you watch them, the cameras are on them so every day, and you aspire to be them. So that's why, you see Ronald Reagan, you see all these characters and divas, Arnold Schwarzenegger, be and hold positions of power, right? Now, what Donald Trump is doing, he's talking and taking on an issue that has real life implications to America and her interest. It has implications on families, people, immigrants, minorities, the fiscal, the U.S. economy, the budget, everything. Now, first, America is a nation of immigrants, correct? However, white America has won over the United States, right? The land of the America. White America did a takeover, right? And a little bit of your history, you should understand how this happened. They took what they wanted, they seen their eyes on the prize and took it, right? Through propaganda, violence, politics, the economy, backstabbing, legislation, you name it, they did it, right? Why did they do this? Well, because there's a lot of money, there's a lot of interest, there's a better way of living, there's a lot of food, a lot of resources. They wanted to see the world advance in the name of progress and to advance civilization. Very progressive, right? From a lot of smart, witty people. Very cruel, but the people in power needed progress. And once they were done with politics, they set their eyes on the prize and the vision that they had set in their mind of what they wanted to see done in their lifetime. So they had to hasten the process, right? So they can see it in their lifetime. That being said, they created heinous acts on every race possibly you can think of. They used many terms. They used race psychology to break down people's self-esteem, to say they're retarded, dumbasses. They don't understand these things. That's why they work the menial jobs. That's why they behave the way they do. Every possibility thing you can do of races, eugenics, all that stuff they used, right? They did this on the Native Americans, the blacks, the Hispanics, now the Middle Eastern people for the crude oil, the resources, their metals, you name it, they're after it. This is how America has become a world power, world domination. This is how they achieved it, and these are just basic words, but you just gotta know your history, like I said in the beginning. Now that being said, they did this not only to have the and to be entitled and be like, this is mine, this is what I claimed, but more importantly because of money, power, and a future and stability for their children. Illegal immigration and legal immigration challenges these factors to white society and white America. Like Louis Farrakhan says, white man's heaven is a black man's hell. Have the masses do the hard labor while these smart men, usually white in color, experience the best things life can offer. Now back on Trump. He's trying to attempt to run for president, right? Now many people will think he is a racist. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't, right? But most would say, however, most would say yes. However, he is simply playing the stage. Like Shakespeare has said, the world's a stage. Politics has everything to do with your tone and playing to your audience, right? And creating either promises, false promises, and ideologies. As of right now, Trump has the mic in his hands and the podium to present his views, whether good or bad, right? This is freedom of speech. The media is focusing so much attention. Why? Maybe for ratings, maybe for their interest on their behalves. Maybe they are racist too and they share Trump's ideas. Why are we not complaining to the media to no longer show this guy and give him a platform to speak on? But that would trample the First Amendment, right? Now, many people would say what Donald Trump is doing is not that. What he's doing is hate speech. He's enticing the audience to create separation and divide many people that feel threatened by this. Whether deliberately or inadvertently, this may be his intention, but Trump and people should expect some reactions, good or bad. Maybe because they don't really fully understand what is really going on behind every one of those words and every one of those moves and the right to assemble. Now, I will try my best to dissect them and simplify it so I and all of us can understand and start having civilized conversations about politics, legal immigration, documentation, and just world life implications as opposed to just worrying about what this guy's shoes wearing and sports, right? And I love all those things, obviously, but we got to start getting involved in the system because the system works. It just people don't participate in it. And we need to have our words mean something, and we have to stand by our words and by our position and start acting like civilized Americans. Now, Trump has the right to speak his mind. This is the freedom of speech. That includes his racist remarks towards immigrants. We as people have the right to slander and lambaste him if we choose to. And the people has spoken, and he has lost so many views and lost so much television shows and revenue on platforms like the local channels, his television shows, right? He is countersuing them for doing so, which appears that we are doing is fueling the machine and giving this guy too much power and attention, which is specifically what he wants to do and needs. The world's a stage and he's playing it quite well, right? This is needed to divide people. Again, what if Bernie Sanders had some racist remarks? Would we finally pay attention to him? Donald Trump right now has the spotlight and the platform, like I said before, but simply the masses, we are emotional, and many people know that Trump is doing and what Trump is doing is wrong. However, let's look at the issue illegal immigration critically. The issue, of course, being illegal immigration, not legal. It's a bold issue and a bold stance coming from Trump, and he's very strong right now, and a very relevant issue at this moment, and will be in the foreseeable future. Since Trump is being cold, bold, and strong, and has the audacity to speak the way he is in this issue, racially calling out immigrants criminals, right? He's, I guess, saying all immigrants that are coming over from, the trains or swimming are all Mara Salvatrucha people like MS-13s or cartels. Many are, maybe or not. Have you seen documentaries? Have you seen films? Seen Hombre from that director from Santa Cruz, Kerry Fukunaga, who also did True Detective. You'll see people, all races, just hopping on trains without food. It's basically a pilgrimage to come from here, hopping on trains. You see a lot of turmoil go on through these experiences just to get to the border, right? Now, that being said, he's equating everybody to be criminals and rapists and all these things, right? Again, that's emotional, sensational, but let's look at the issue critically. Now, these are some facts. It just happens based on California Governor Jerry Brown's new state budget. Latinos are projected to become the largest single racial ethnic group in the state by March of this year, making up 39% of the state's population. That will make California only the second state behind New Mexico where whites are not the majority and Latinos are the plurality, meaning they are not more than half, but they comprise the largest percentage of any group in that state. Now, if y'all don't realize, that is a big politically sway in votes. We in California hold the most representatives, right? The House of Representatives, which is political power, 53, in the Electoral College, 53 House of Representatives, and 2 senators. So a total of 55 out of like 500 and like, I don't know, like 35 or 37. California is in the top 10 of economies in the whole world. And agriculture, Silicon Valley, services are big reasons for that, which means tons of money is in this place. You feel me, homeboy? This is very threatening to white America if they're not getting their hands on it, and immigrants are, right, in agriculture per se. Because not only will immigrants, most likely Latinos and Hispanics, will be more educated, policies like affirmative action, etc., and the political powers can shift, and they, white America, can be less influential and feel threatened, right? Jobs, careers, and almost everything you can think of, from language to music, can all change, especially if you fall in the racist category. Your so-called purity will diminish and races will mix, right? They'll start falling in love with one another. This is just stating the obvious, so don't get mad at me. I'm not making none of this up. This is how politics thinks. Now that we mentioned a few issues and consequences of immigrants coming in and populating California, Latino and Hispanic families love having them babies, you dig? Huge families, right? This becomes even more of an issue, especially with global warming, resources, jobs, unemployment. This all has real life implications, but people are not talking about this. They're just talking about Trump being a racist. But this is the issue that he's talking about behind the curtains, right? Or this is what his, candidates and his people in office, right, are talking about. Trump is just the face, but these are what really goes behind the scenes. So this is where Trump comes in, right? And if he is bold enough, like he's showing the world, to mention and talk loudly of an issue by being disrespectful and hostile, well, he is playing to a crowd and the big issues, and his backers are loving every inch of it, which his supporters understand. However, the rest of the world will only call him out for his racist remarks and dismiss and miss the entire point of what these issues are really all about. Okay, now Trump is more than a guy that is speaking his mind, and his issues he is against are very threatening to white America, right? And will be so if white America does not do anything about it. The threats being these illegal immigrants, children will get benefits and education, which will lead them to prosper. And don't think for a second that with education, they will work on the fields. They might, but as a career, they're looking for something more, because they will have seen their parents work the fields, work back-breaking labor, and they will be that much motivated. There'll be pressure, but they'll be that much motivated to study hard in the books. As like there's another study that showed that a lot of Latinos are going to colleges and getting degrees. Again, this is threatening to people and Americans who are here through documentation and proper immigrants and civilians and the whole 9 yards, that they can take over their jobs in the future. Maybe not the field workers, but definitely the field workers' children, because when the 14th Amendment, everybody's equal under the law, so to speak. Once you're born here, you're a citizen, which means you have all the rights of everybody else. That is very detrimental and fearful for white America. Again, from rags to riches, correct? Now back on Trump. This guy is not a joke, so don't take this guy lightly. We need to be very careful not to be so emotional, like Jorge Ramos. He's almost proving this guy's point. Jorge Ramos is a Mexican journalist on Univision, really good, but right now he's basically, and this may not be his intention, but he certainly does not help the cause. He's helping them divide Americans. Obviously, Jorge Ramos disagrees with Trump's thoughts and building on building a border and deporting all Latinos. But if Trump's thoughts are so unrealistic, why bring those issues as your counter arguments like he did, right? I'll get on that in a little bit. And why not talk about the real life pragmatic issues that I mentioned? Now, those kind of arguments, Jorge Ramos' arguments make a lot of sense, right? Before he got kicked out. I mean, here we go. Jorge Ramos, right? It's the video is going up and it's going viral. Made Trump basically look silly when he told him stats and numbers, right? How much it would cost to build the border, right? How much would it cost to deport every immigrant or every Latino, whatever? It's 132 billion, 12,500 per individual, something amongst those lines. Basically, tons of money, right? And Trump was having none of that. He's like, dude, get out of here, go back to your Univision. Jorge Ramos is like, dude, there's no way you're gonna deport that much money. The powers won't let you. 132 billion can use that money can be used for elsewhere, and basically deporting all these immigrants. It's not. So what the heck are you talking about? Please elaborate on these issues. That's basically what Ramos was telling Trump. Trump was having none of that. However, what Trump may be talking about, and behind the things, now this is my conjecture, is he might be talking about martial law and camps, right? Putting these immigrants in and deporting them back, right? And then he might be creating a bracero program to have the Latino immigrants come and plow the fields and work them for lower wages, right? Dividing more Latino families and Hispanic families and whatnot who work the fields, right? This is a repetitive behavior. This is not me just making up stuff. This has been done before in the camps, right? Internment camps. When Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, they put Japanese in these camps. They had them fighting wars. They won a lot of Purple Hearts. I mean, you gotta know your history. This is repetition. This is not nothing new. These are the stances that these political players do, right? Now, Trump has said some ridiculous things like the big border, making it thick, and having the Mexicans work it. But those are unrealistic ideas. But that being said, he's taken every moment he can to stir up the presidential campaigns and have people vote for him, right? Using tons of sensationalism just to prove his point. Now, here's another thing. I do remember from an NPR segment, they were talking about mass immigration and how Barack Obama was not doing much to get the situation under control, right? People and political pundits were crying foul that Obama was doing this intentionally because most immigrants tend to swing Democratic, right? And the Republicans were trying to control the border to not let them get, and basically being persistent on Obama to tighten up the border. For example, a family member once told me to always vote Democratic. This was when I turned 18, because the Democrats basically are a little more favorable and less harsher on the minority, right, than the Republicans, basically choosing the lesser of two evils. Here's the question. Do the Democrats know this? And can they be more detrimental to the minority? Maybe we should be voting for somebody else or a different party besides Republicans and the Democrats. Bernie Sanders seems like a possibility. He's like a Democrat, but he's very socialist. But he does make some valid points on a lot of things that he says, right? Like the education, having Wall Street bailing us out. Which that's a complete different issue. I could talk about that, but let me get back on track. That being said, here are some random thoughts. If George Bush can win it, so can Donald Trump. Bush, however, had a lot of corporations behind this, right? The whole oil. Corporations do comprise a lot of the electoral college, right? From global warming to the Koch brothers, $800 million in political campaigns, So Trump, I don't know if he's got good relationships. From what I'm told, he does not have good relationships with the electoral college members. But that being said, if he does or does not, that can have a detrimental effect on his votes, right? Because our corporatism is basically what runs the United States. I mean, there was a whole thing, Citizens United, I believe that's what it was. Corporations are people and stuff like that. Their ideas from a lot of people in the boardroom, and they manifested to make these great ideas and powers, right? And there's a lot of money, so maybe there is some validity to that. Now, that being said, let me see. Now I'm just gonna go on random thoughts here and just kind of just speak my mind. Anyone who thinks deporting all the immigrants is the answer is an idiot. California is huge in agriculture production, and will go bankrupt if these immigrants are not working there in the fields. Guess who works these fields? They're mostly undocumented immigrants. This is not to say all races or white people are lazy. Not everyone is hardworking, right? but there is a racial caste system that benefits other races and others, right? There's some that have social mobility that will move up the social ladder and get higher paid, and there's some that basically will always be perpetuating the cycle because the forces are pushing them more down, right, and not giving them the open doors to succeed and prosper. That being said, these illegal immigrants are mostly working in the fields, right? Busting their backs in 100-degree weather, sweat coming down their ass cheeks and fingernails with dirt in them that will last up to 3 days before they get clean and get that stench of smell of fruit picking out of their sinuses. I mean, you name it, it's man, I worked it. It's pretty tough, man. Um, some people like to say send them back, right? But and they'll make laws, like racial profiling, and then what this does is locks up these people, mass incarceration. All these things are just issues that happen, right? um, but there's videos that say that the immigrants pay a lot of taxes, like 30 billion, right? Taxes to the government. That will have a lot of implications, right? These are everything you have to think about: taxes, right? Incarcerations, profiting, and now this is a comment from a Facebook post. Basically he's saying, I forgot what his name was, but basically he was saying this is very interesting. He said, "I don't understand how Trump is racist. Please explain. Because immigration laws are not exclusive to Mexicans, they affect all nations, not of the United States. What is specific to Mexico, however, is the fact that we share a border with them and there is billions of dollars worth of drugs coming over, not to mention illegals from all countries, not just Mexicans coming over. Before anybody wants to call Trump or America racist, they need to look at Mexican immigration policy, which does not allow birthright citizenship to undocumented people, and they don't house them in jail or give them welfare benefits. Also, they don't have a policy in Mexico to medically treat anybody who just walks into a hospital. But here in the United States, we do all that shit. It makes no damn sense, and my family came from Mexico legally, and I haven't heard Trump say anything racist, but I've seen sound bites and chopped up videos of his speeches get forwarded around the internet making it sound like he's saying shit he's not. Trump has never said shit about Mexicans. He's talking about how the Mexican government is corrupt and uses us, and how our government knows it does nothing about. He's talking about how it's not just migrant undocumented workers coming over, right? Who use unsecured Mexican American border as a highway to take drugs here to sell and take them money back along with our own guns they buy here. You got a genocide of Mexicans being killed and taken advantage of, right? The 55 students missing. And all of that goes back to the cartels who are buying off the Mexican government and using Univision to keep quiet. Meanwhile, our politicians are taking advantage of the influx in crime, but creating a welfare state and policy and police state, and the ones getting fucked in this situation are the legal citizens of the United States. We get enough criminals in this country. We shouldn't be taking care of other countries and their poor people, which most come from Central and South America up through Mexico, and they're not even Mexican. Then you got the 40% who stay over their visa times, and 15 of those are Europeans. So there's illegal white people too. Like I said, before we deport illegal people, it's not just Mexicans, it's all nations, not if the United States. So unless Trump is going to propose a law through Congress that only applies to Mexicans and the Confess approves it as a law of the United States, then this country isn't racist and neither is Trump. Now that makes a lot of sense. You may have to understand what he's talking about. And that's basically Trump's issue, right? And this is basically my stand. Now to conclude this, I'm not sure how this will play out in the democratic process, right? And who will become the next president. I know that in The Revolt of the Masses, the author Gasset warned us about many scenarios and how democracy is not the best form of government, especially if the masses are misinformed and greedy, biased, and don't let other people that are different to deviate from the norm. All I know is what goes on in my head. So hopefully this helps you understand the issue on immigration and how the issue works. If this sounds like garbage, let it be known that a Mexican concluded this with pure conjecture and stuff on his mind from history, politics, capitalism, the whole thing. Who's to blame? Is it the American government, the Mexican government, or Trump? The thing is, Trump is just a messenger. Why are you shooting him? He at this moment has nothing and no power at all. He has got money, but not political power. If he becomes president, that's a different story. But that will be through a vote. So if you don't want this guy to be a power, don't vote for him. And you have to vote. That being said, he's talking about an issue that everybody should be talking about. Whether it's Obama, whether it's Hillary, It's a stance that we will need to see happen in the future because there's a lot of real life pragmatic issues at hand. And I just named a list of them. The fault here is the Mexican government and the American government. They are both in cahoots and allowing drugs and all this to get out of hand. If y'all watch Traffic, the movie from Soderbergh, Jeremy Renner from Avengers, the movie Don't Shoot the Messenger, and watch war on drug documentaries and such, you will see this is all part of a plan to make as much money as you can through prison, mass incarceration, and such other things, right? The war on drugs. But we only look at problems of people only being racist. Do y'all see the overall picture now? This goes beyond a racist slur, people. Please understand that. Down on the description box, I will send some links, some articles that y'all can read. Please understand, please inform, please talk about this. It's very important. And, I'll try to get as much boxing video as I can. Lately, I've been slumping. Anyway, hopefully you guys like this. Stay tuned. So now you may be asking, what's your opinion, drunk? What do you side on? Well, the thing is, here in this video, I presented objective overall perspective, right? I basically gave you out and pointed out the facts. I will give my position right now, but first, here's the kicker. It doesn't matter if it's Trump, Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, or whoever the next president is, Jeb Bush. This issue will always be there in the future, now, and hundreds of years from now, with the immigrants of the Latin America and Hispanic people, because we share the border with the United States. They want these people come here to achieve the American dream because conditions are harsh and there's corruption over there and there's more prosperity over here on the other side of the border, right? And you may think, well, I didn't hop the border hopped us. By that level of thinking, which has some validity to it, but by that level of thinking, there will always be problems. Now, here's the thing. It doesn't matter, like I said, who the president is. These issues will always be here at hand. These policies will always be there. So the more immigrants that hop over, the more detrimental it will be for the citizens that live here, because mass incarcerations will happen. They'll make policy racial profiling and they'll lock up everybody. Here's another thing. If the immigrants come here, the business-minded people will hire them. The reason being is they'll pay them less. The undocumented can't complain because they're here and they'll always be the migra. They'll always be afraid. And then that screws the citizens here because they'll give the jobs to the other people, and then these citizens are screwed because they pay a little better because they're citizens. They're going to get the minimum wage where you can pay the other one to do exactly the same amount of work for less pay. So it fucks everybody and it creates division. It creates divides, like you separate people, and these land legal immigrants will vote against these immigrants, and there will always be turmoil, and this is what will happen. So you guys have to understand this level of thinking and all this understanding. So what's my position? My position is we got to deal with the policy. Now, my parents came here with proper documentation when the borders were allowed people to come over here and find work, and we basically like a bracero program. And then they gained over like 20 years in documentation. They gained the right to be a citizen here. So it was a long process, and they did it correctly. But at the same time, they could have faced a deportation every single time. Luckily, we did it. Now they had family. We became born United States citizens because on the 14th Amendment, equal under law, and once you're born here, you're a citizen. That being said, other families understand that law, so they're coming over here. They're going to populate and have children so they can gain citizenship through their children, like an anchor baby. Now, what does that say about the American immigration policy? What does it say about American and the American dream? Some people say, oh, it doesn't exist. It exists to immigrants. You migrate over here and start a new life. This is what it's about. If you don't understand that, I can't really help you. This is not me being racial or favoring Trump. Like I said, it doesn't matter if it's Trump, Bernie Sanders, the next president. This will always happen. There will always be this turmoil and conflict because we share the border. And there's poverty down there and there's riches up here. Maybe you won't be a billionaire, but you'll definitely be able to live comfortably in a one-story house and achieve the American dream, having your children being educated. If you don't understand this, I don't know what I basically outlined everything for you. Now it's your decision, and drop down a comment, leave